Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be presenting my Tamagotchi Pet Game. This project is going to have three derived classes, namely the dog class, the squirrel class, and the bird class. The base class is going to be pet.cpp, and this is the main function. To start off by creating a pet pointer which directs the user to the appropriate derived class based on the pet selected, following which we call the print rules function. This basically prints the information of the game. The user is then presented with a menu option to select whether to start a new game or to load a saved one, and the input of the user is stored in options to load, and this is done by calling the ask load game function. So we can see in the ask load game function, which is here, the option is stored and it's returned. And then based on the value of the options to load, we write an if else block. Based on what's received, we write an if else block. And if the user wants to create a new pet, we take the name of the file as input by calling the create name function. And following this, we provide the user with three different options of the pets depending on the user's choice, and we call the specific overloaded constructors. And if the user wants to load a saved game, then we take the name of the file as input, where we can see it's being stored in user, and we call the load game function. And the load game function compares. If we go to the load game function, it stores the first string member in type. So it compares the first string stored in the file with the names of the pets, and it compares them, and then it calls the respective overloaded constructors in the derived classes. So we can see that the load game function is comparing the first string, and if it equals dog, then it calls the dog's overloaded constructor, and so on. And now we entered the main core of the game, which is the play game loop, the while loop. The user is prompted with 5 different actions that he can do with the pet, and it starts by calling the print options to choose function. And if we go to the print options to choose, we can see that the user is provided with 5 different options, and based on the user's input, we have different cases in the while loop, and we create a switch case loop within the while. And based on the user's input, we have different cases where the pet pointer points to the specific methods in the respective derived classes. So we can see that the pet pointer, the player function, which is basically the pet pointer, is pointing to the print pet info of the respective derived classes. And then we also implement the nextStar function. The nextStar function randomly manipulates the private member variables, making the game a little difficult to play. And then if the pet dies, then or the user quits the game, then the info is saved in the text files, and the statistics are displayed, and the game ends. In pet.h, we have listed all the functions that we will be using in the pet.cpp class. We start off with a pet function with a string parameter. This is the name of the file that the information will be stored in. Then we have another overloaded constructor of pet with 3 different parameters of string. One is the name of the file, the other one is the type of the pet, and the other one is the name of the pet. Then we have a destructor, which is virtual because it will be called by all the derived classes. And we have the update hungry, the update board, and the update energy. We have our getters and setters, and we also have the virtual feed, play, and sleep, the 3 main interactions with the pets. In pet.c, the main private member variables are hungry, energy, and bored. The value of hungry, if it's low, then it means the pet is not hungry. Similarly, for bored, if it's low, it's not bored. And for energy, on the other hand, if energy is high, then it's energetic. And moving on to pet.cpp, the first overloaded constructor is pet, which takes in a string parameter, which is basically the name of the file, and we store all the info from the user into the file. We also change the hungry, energy, and bored from strings to integer before moving it into the files. Then we have our another overloaded constructor which takes in 3 string parameters, which is the name of the file, the type of the class, and the pet name. And we also set the default values of the private member variables. Then we have a destructor which prints a thank you message at the end of the game. And this game revolves around the next hour function, which is basically a random function which affects all the member variables, and it manipulates all the values just to show passage of time. So basically, if the board is below a certain level, it won't change because the pet is not bored. And if it lies between any other range, then the other, like hunger for board, will be affected. So they are interconnected to each other. If the board increases, then the hunger levels also increases. And then we move ahead to the adjust levels function. Adjust levels basically caps the upper and lower bounds of the private member variables. So basically, if hunger levels exceed 100 or go below 0, then it's capped at a maximum of 100 or a minimum of 0. Similarly for all the other private member variables. Then we move on to the print welcome info. This is basically the information that is going to be saved when you load the function again. So you're going to see all the information saved in this format, and it's saved as a string stream, which is basically a stream function, and we save it as an input stream. Print pet information, which basically stores the current condition of the pet depending on its private member variables, depending on the values of its private member variables. And this function is called when the user inputs that it wants a hint from the admin. Then print pet info is called. Then we have our print pet mood function, which basically calculates the mood of the pet, and it's stored in the string stream, which basically is also updated in the file that the information is being saved in after it's been loaded. And to calculate the average, we can think about it in this manner. If hungry is low, then it's good for the pet. If bored is low, it's good for the pet. And if energy is high, then it's good for the pet. So to bring all the 3 member variables on the same page, we have taken 100 minus energy. So if 100 minus energy is low, that indicates that the pet is energetic. So if the average is less, then the mood of the pet is happy. If the average is more, then the mood of the pet is miserable. Then we move on to the save game function, which basically prompts that the game is being saved. Then we have our game over, where it returns either true or false depending on whether the game is over, and it depends on this condition. If the hungry level and the bored level reaches maximum, that which is 100, then the game is over, the pet dies. And if the energy level reaches 0, similarly the pet dies and the game is over. Then we have our void generate warning, which basically gives the user a warning that the private member variables are in adverse conditions. The pet has a very bad condition right now, so it prompts the user with a warning message. And then we have our update hunger, update board, and update energy functions. Then we have the update mood function and the C stats, where we basically print out the statistics of the pet about all its private member variables, its current condition. And we have our getters and setters. Moving on to the dog.h class. The dog.h is basically a derived class, one of the 3 derived classes of pet. And we have the 3 overloaded constructors, the 2 overloaded constructors, and a destructor. All of these functions are being overridden and they are overriding the functions in pet.cpp. The dog string calls the pet string, and the dog with three string parameters calls the pet overloaded constructor with three string parameters. Then we have the dog destructor, which also calls the destructor of the pet. Then we have the three then we override the three main interactions, which is feed, play, and sleep from the pet class. And we also have the virtual functions print pet mood, save game, and next hour. And following dog.h, we have dog.cpp, and this the second overloaded constructor. This basically sets the default values of hungry, energy, and bored. Then we have the print pet mood, and we have the save game function, which basically calls the save game function in the pet class. And then we have an output stream which saves all the information, all the values that have been stored at the end of the game to the file. And we have the next hour function, which basically calculates and updates the hunger, energy, and bored levels randomly, so that and this is the main core of the game, and it makes the game a little difficult to play. Then we move on to the main interactions. First off, we have the feed function, where where the user is given a menu of three things that he wants to feed the pet with, and accordingly the hunger levels are adjusted. Similarly, with play, we have three options given to the user, and the boredom levels are updated, and so for sleep. Similarly, in this fashion, we have the squirrel class with similar characteristics and similar functions, just the values are different, and the interactions are unique. So we have different games for squirrels, different ways to put them to sleep, and different food given to eat. Same for bird. And now it's time to run the game and play the game. Let's go ahead and run the program. So once we run, we see the instructions about the game. And now let's go ahead and start a new game. And now we are prompted to name the file. Let's name the file final. And then we are given three options, three pets to choose from. Let's choose a dog. Let's name the dog Charlie. And now we are prompted with the initial default values of the private member variables, the hunger level, boredom, and energy. This is the default values that have been stored, and the default mood is happy. Now let's go ahead and play with the pet. Now if we choose to play, then we see the three unique ways with which we can spend time with the pet. So let's go ahead and go for a walk. And now we can see that the mood has changed from happy to very happy, whereas all the other three statistics of the statistics of the pet, the other three private member variables, those have also changed randomly. So we can see that the energy level has decreased, the hunger level has also decreased, and the boredom level has also decreased. So now let's go ahead and put a random number. Let's input 6. So we can see that it's an invalid entry, and we are prompted to try again. Let's go ahead and ask for a hint from the admin. And we can see that Charlie is feeling a bit hungry. It could use a small snack to recharge. We also see that Charlie is starting to feel a little tired, but it's having a great time playing. So let's go ahead and feed the pet. These are the three different ways. Let's choose to feed it with chicken. And we can see the levels, how they have changed. Now let's go ahead and quit the game. And immediately we see a final.txt file that has been created. And now we go ahead and press on the file, and we see all the information that has been stored. Now let's go ahead and run the program again, and let's load the saved file. Let's name it final, and we can see all the information that has been stored in final as it is. Now let's go ahead and quit this game and try to name the file. Let's name a new file, but incorrectly. Let's name it with something more than alphanumeric. Let's have special characters. Then we are prompted with the rules again, and we are asked to re-enter the name of the file. So let's put a legitimate name. Let's say AA, and we can see that the program runs normally. Now let's input a wrong option. Let's input 4, and we can see that we are prompted with you entered a wrong option, and we are asked to start again. Thank you.